Hello everybody and welcome back to JeremyTiki Plays Sonic 2. Sorry, I couldn't figure out why it wasn't starting there for a minute. So last time we got through the rest of Casino Night and went through the first section of whatever this stage is called. I can't remember now. I said last time that each of the stages kind of try to teach you a new mechanic before they let you move on. And this stage, I feel, is more of just a midterm type exam, where it's making sure you got all of the mechanics from the previous stages, while making sure you understood all of the mechanics from the previous stages before to let you through. And I think this little part right here is a great example of that. I was hoping he would respawn. Maybe I have to get a little further away from him first. Let's see. Yeah. So here, at first glance, it just looks like, it wants you to get over the enemy. But the best way to get over the enemy is to jump on his head, use the momentum from jumping on his head to land on the next platform, like this. Which is something you would have learned about in Stage 3, the mainly underwater episode that has the Roman pillars and stuff. And Stage 2, or Stage 4... Was it Stage 4? Is Casino Night Stage 4? Yeah, I guess so. Wow. Casino Night, to understand the bouncing mechanics for how you interact with things you bounce off of. So like I said, this stage is all about making sure you understand how the different mechanics work together. And that's why shields are so plentiful in this stage. If you noticed, you didn't really see shields in stages 2, 3, or 4, but now you're suddenly seeing them all over the place again in Stage 5. Why is that? Well, it's because in Stages 2, 3, and 4, they were more interested in introducing these new mechanics in a non-obtrusive way. There wasn't really a way for you to get hurt in Stages 2, 3, and 4. Especially in Stage 2, there was only one type of enemy in that entire stage, besides Robotnik, that is. And that was the shield guy that blocks your attack with a shield. Nobody ever really questions why that is. Well, it's because of this exact thing that I was talking about. The stages aren't designed to test how much you know about the game yet, because you don't know anything about the game. The game designers understood that. Those stages were all about learning how to play the game. Now that they assume that you understand how to play the game because you got through the previous stages that teach you the mechanics, they want to make sure you have a little bit of protection so you don't feel too threatened going into the actual game. And see, this is what makes this boss so easy, because as long as you... Shit. Damn it. As long as you understood the mechanics previously, you can really mess with Robotnik pretty badly here, by simply bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. I mean, that took him 3 times going up and down for like 12 hits. So as long as you really got the mechanic from the previous stage, the Casino Night stage, and understand how Sonic's bouncing mechanic works when he interacts with something in the spin ball, the boss is incredibly easy. And that's what they're banking on. Mystic Cave Zone. This is where things really start to get hard, because there's a lot of these kind of things. So now, this is kind of a new mechanic they didn't really hint at, and as long as you were pretty good, you wouldn't have really noticed it up until this point, and that is being crushed. There wasn't really any introduction to being crushed in the game thus far, but being crushed is one of the few things that immediately kills Sonic, regardless of how many rings he has, or if he has invincibility, or if he's in the supersonic state. You get crushed, you die immediately. And you kind of get a light introduction to it in the previous episode, in the previous stage, because there is a single stage, that single section there, where the ground's coming up, and you have to escape before it crushes you. but that's the only real indication to that. So this stage kind of gives a little bit more indication to that, and in a little introduction to invincible enemies, which are those lightning bugs. Whenever they're lit up, they're invincible, and you can't hurt them. As well as a couple other small things like hidden enemies, like this guy here. Oh, he despawned already. Yep, can't get him to spawn back. But a couple other minor things. Nothing really like overly obtrusive though. Yeah, there. So hidden enemies, hidden obstacles like those blocks that slide out of the wall, as well as some very minor puzzle solving stuff. Mainly stuff like this. Nothing really heavy though. This stage is more about, I feel it's more about kind of introducing these very minor mechanics, and mainly the crushing mechanic, because that's a big one that's shown over and over on this stage, and it's probably the hardest part about this stage is just the crushing mechanic, because that's shown in not only the rocks moving up and down, but also in the boxes moving around in circles. Because the boxes, if they come down, they can crush you as well. So it's kind of a little bit of an introduction to like intermediary enemies. Enemies that aren't exactly easy to fight and kill, or aren't exactly easy to see. And a couple like intermediary mechanics like being crushed. And that's why if you notice, there's so many invincibility boxes lying around. Lots of invincibility boxes, tons and tons of rings, tons of ring boxes, and tons of shield boxes laying around. Because that's what this stage is all about. Intermediary mechanics and kind of advanced level enemies. See, and here's like a perfect example of, even if you have the invincibility set there, that box will still crush you. So it's kind of like a light introduction to that. And I think there's also a section here that it's like a bottomless pit type deal. This isn't it, right? No, okay. It's a bottomless pit where if you get stuck in it, you just... Oop, see? Like I said, intermediary enemies that are always invincible. Yeah. You can't get out of this. Once you get in it, you're just stuck. So it kind of teaches a couple light mechanics like that. But this is, like I said, Sonic 2 is just such a well-built game because of stuff like this. It does, and by this time, as long as you've been playing at least even minorly well, you have enough lives you can make up for something like that. It's not a great big deal. But they teach it in such a perfect way, because you learn about this, and it's not even, like, it's not intrusive. You just learn it, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's how this thing works. And it's just a nice new feature you can add to the list of things you know how to do now. Okay. Shoot. So like I said, this stage is another one that introduces some minor mechanics, not as much... These mechanics aren't as important as the previous ones that the game was trying to teach you how to use. Like, momentum, that's a huge, huge one. Momentum, what's going on here? Oh, I guess I can't get up there. I have to go another way. But momentum, death traps, things like that. Really important mechanics. Momentum, the spin ball, obviously. Just very important mechanics like that. These ones, not as much. And like I said, as long as you, up until this point, you've learned and understand the mechanics correctly, the boss fight should be no problem. Specifically, as long as you've learned the bouncing mechanic. That's the big one. As long as you've learned the bouncing mechanic up until this point, none of the Robotnik fights should be any kind of a problem. And that's, Mystic Cave Zone? Yeah, Mystic Cave Zone. Not too insanely difficult. Not really difficult at all. The special stages are harder than these are. but just another perfect example of game design done right. So next episode, we'll take a look at Oil Ocean. Oil Ocean has a couple interesting mechanics to teach, specifically slow drowning, sinking, and the sliding mechanic. And the shooting. I guess the shooting barrels could be considered that, but they only really show up for this stage. So next time we'll take a look at Oil Ocean, and we'll talk about the different kinds of game mechanics introduced in this stage. So if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.